All right, everybody. Welcome. I think we're already on volume 8. We got a special guest this week, Mr. John Beckham. Always love being able to throw some PG rep out, especially somebody that has, some big stuff going on at the moment. John, I mean, we'll give you a minute to talk, but man, I really liked the documentary. I wanted more of it, man. I wanted it to be longer. But that's just my love of basketball in PG County in general. So I really appreciate you being on with us this week for, a pretty interesting category, the top 5 horror movies.
Right on. And for those that didn't know, me and Danny grew up in the same house. Real shit.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time.
But it was our family bought John's family's house, and then we ended up moving back close to him when we moved into the same neighborhood again. I love Berwyn Heights, and representing Berwyn Heights Gym, Langley Park Gym, I think made appearance, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I remember those days as well.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your travel, John.
Yeah, right. That's a bucket.
And
traveling, no call.
I remember getting my a couple shots swatted by Cameron Wake in that exact gym. So there was some talent flowed through that gym, even in my age group. He wasn't an NBA player, but he's been an All-Pro NFL player. So it definitely was interesting for me to watch that. I loved it though, and congrats, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for having me on. I love movies. I love lists. I love it. Let's fucking do it. Language, right? I'm not supposed to cuss, right?
No worries.
No, you can cuss.
Yeah. So we're going to just start off like we usually do. We go 5 to 1, and we always start with a guest. So, John, what do you got for your number 5?
So my number 5 is going to be, and just before I get started, I didn't include psychological thrillers like The Silence of the Lambs. I hope maybe y'all do though, or something. I don't know. There's a lot of movies that it was hard for me to pick, so I just picked like things that said horror movie when I looked them up.
Right.
So number 5 is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was terrifying. It looked like somebody shot it on a home video. People were freaking out, and I was really young when I saw it, so it terrified me. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And actually, Billy Bell and Mike Bell, the twins, lived up the street from me. Their dad had the VHS of that. So we would be able to go and watch that when we were like young, like 13, and that was crazy. So yeah.
Ryan, do you remember? Or obviously, you caught it older, but
yeah, I remember the original. I mean, anything based on like a true story and stuff like that movie was like kind of gets you because you're like, this shit can actually happen. I remember that one scene where they had the old grandpa in the chair and they're trying to get their grandpa to fucking kill the guy with the hammer. And they're just sitting there with this decrepit old man trying to get him to hammer it. It was super disturbing movie. So yeah, I like the pick.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, when I was doing research, that's one of the ones I thought of. I didn't have it on my list, but I remember the first time I saw it, just like sort of the opening scene was kind of really creepy. Just sort of getting lost in a place you don't know, and this guy with a leather face and chainsaw comes after you. And doing a little bit of research, I actually read that the movie, people don't remember, the original one doesn't have a lot of actual blood and gore. A lot of it is sort of psychological. So you hear it and you just assume, and that actually makes things a lot scarier. So I think it's a good pick. Danny, you all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You kind of paused for a second. I apologize.
Oh, sorry about
that. So yeah, I do think this is another good pick. Wasn't Jessica Biel in like the remake?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and I thought that movie was actually pretty good too. Obviously, it wasn't as good It was one of the ones that was kind of like on the border, like of like the 6 or 7. And I haven't like watched a ton of horror movies, but obviously it's one that I have watched, and that shit was freaky. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that one because since it was so close to making my list, I think that we all agree. I think we're all agreeing on that one. So we'll move on to Ryan. What you got for your number 5?
So when I'm thinking about like horror movies, like don't give me monsters and ghosts and shit like that. Give me something that can actually happen to you. So for my number 5, I'm going with The Strangers, which is more of a recent film too. It came out in like 2008. I mean, the film opens, these couples in a secluded house in the woods. It's 4 a.m. And then they hear a knock at the door. I mean, right there, I'm shitting my pants. If that was me. You know, when they open the door, it's this blonde girl asking if Tamara's home. I mean, who the fuck is Tamara? We never find out throughout the entire movie. I mean, there's that scene where, you know, their friend comes to pick him up and they end up shooting him in the head, which was a great scene. The masks in these movies are amazing. They remind me of like the Michael Myers mask, where you have this like stagnant, unchanging face doing horrible things. I mean, definitely a movie you don't want to watch with your windows open at home. It'll definitely freak the shit out of you.
Ronnie, thoughts there on Ronnie?
I've never seen it. I have heard some good things about it, so I don't really have too much to say, but it looks creepy as crap.
Yeah, the masks in that movie freak me out. I think there's like are there multiple of that one too? I think I saw one of them. Are there
there's multiple.
Yeah, I think like I didn't watch the other ones because it did kind of like freak me out. You know, but yeah, the masks are kind of what gets it for me. You know, and a good mask. You know, I'm a Slipknot fan too. A good mask is, you know what I mean, like is hard to find. So, John, what do you think about that?
I think it's a great pick. That's just like a straight up in a house, crazy shit's happening horror movie. I loved it. The scene where she just knocks, is Tamara home? And you're like, what the hell? What is she talking about? That like me and my wife actually, she jokes around sometimes about that. Great pick. I thought it was scary. It's good.
All right, we'll roll over to Ronnie for number 5.
Yeah, number 5. So when I was making this list, I didn't want to be too redundant. So my number 5, a lot of my movies, except for this one, are for when I was younger. It's just I was more susceptible to being scared. For me, with horror movies now, I just sort of laugh or fall asleep because they're either bad or just I think hilarious. So this one was actually later in my life, and why isn't that popping up? Give me a second.
I'm getting a beer.
Do it.
Sorry about that. All right. So here it is. It's Human Centipede.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Speaking of things that can actually happen to you, you get lost in the woods in Germany, and some doctors there. You know, he's telling you he can help you, and he knocks you out, and all of a sudden, I mean, what's scarier than being the end person? That is the scariest because, I mean, if you think about it, you're just recycling 2 people's shit. And, you know, that's just ridiculous. And, you know, the first person, he's got it made, really. I guess it isn't as scary for him. But, you know, it's a very creepy movie. It's very, I know when it came out, a lot of people were like, oh, man, this is disgusting. And so crazy. But it got that buzz. Like, it was different. That's what I kind of enjoyed about it, is that it was different and it made you think. I mean, obviously, this probably can't happen in real life, but you know, there's some crazy people out there, and it's a creepy thing to think about.
This is a terrible pick. This is a terrible movie that anybody would ever come up with. This is terrible as well. I watched barely any of this thing. I'm like, there's no chance I'm watching any more of this thing. I can't believe you watched the whole thing. I'm disappointed in you, really, Ronnie. I'm sorry. Disappointed in your number 5. John, do you have thoughts on the Human Centipede?
I like the pick. The pick. I think it's super unique. I watched the whole thing through because I couldn't believe what I was watching. Every minute of it, I was like, "What is going on? What are these people that are making this film on?" I like the pick. Good pick, man. That's a ballsy pick, and I think it deserves a shout out because it was definitely unique.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. Great pick. I remember watching this movie with Anthony Russell, and then him freaking out the next day because he thought his wife was going to see that he watched it on Netflix. He didn't want her finding out that he watched The Human Centipede. I mean, can you think of something more terrifying than the ending of that, where the ends of The Human Centipede just kill themselves and you're fucking stuck like that?
It's awful.
Amazing ending, amazing pick. Great
Did
job.
anyone see the South Park parody of that?
I think so. Yeah, that was a good one.
I have not, but now I'm going to have to look it up after this. For maybe watch just a little bit of that, too. I'll move on to my number 5. I mean, honestly, but no pun intended, but really, Ronnie, that's, his pick was just shittier than Two Girls, One Cup. That's all I got to say. But I'm going to move on to my number 5. I want to move on to my number 5. My criteria is probably a little bit different than everybody else's. I kind of went all over the place with mine. I kind of went with movies that that I remember really freaking me out, all the way up to like movies that I thought were like good and that kind of like I've kind of tried to like span a little bit of different kind of shit. So my number 1 is going to be
Number
something
5,
that nobody else agrees with, and it's very personal. My number 5 is Beetlejuice. Okay, you have to understand that this is the year's 1988. Okay, my mom takes me to see Beetlejuice when I was 6 years old, up to AMC 8, baby, at Bellway Plaza Mall.
in the middle.
Right, you know it, right? Right where they put the basketball court. No, that was the 6th. Yeah, you're right.
6th.
The middle one. Yep. And we get in there get popcorn, everything. Like the opening scene comes on, and I'm like, I'm out. Like this ain't happening. Like shit freaked me out. Like I couldn't even make it 10 minutes into the theater. I remember like leaving with all the stuff that we got from the concessions. I remember my mom being bitter. I even remember like watching that movie like later on, like as I was older, and I'm like, yeah, it like still freaks me out. Like they're doing it like on Broadway. I'm like, yo, stop! What the fuck, yo? Just stop with the Beetlejuice stuff. So Beetlejuice is my number 5 for kind of like personal reasons. John, do you have any feelings on Beetlejuice?
It's a horrible pick. Yeah. Why? I'm going to tell you that why right now, because that is not a horror movie, and the list for the night are your top 5 horror movies. So I guess the host, Danny's just going to make the rules whatever the heck he wants to on this show and just start saying amazing comedy kind of movies.
It was horror to me.
Let's just move on to 4. Can we go to 4?
Yeah, yes, we can. I'll agree to that.
That's a terrible pick.
God, man.
John, what do you got for your number 4?
I got this movie where they play this crazy crap on this videotape that they find.
Oh.
And that freaked me out for sure. I'm gonna somehow stop recording, but I don't know how. Now everything's going crazy. What's happening? How do I get out of here?
Just your bottom. Yeah, if you click on the actual, yep. Did he close himself out?
There he is.
There he is.
Sorry, guys. The Ring is my number 4. The Ring is my number 4.
Ring
version.
Yeah.
Ryan, or any thoughts on The Ring?
Yeah, that's a good pick. That was a freaky movie as well. I like how that movie came out and everyone was waiting 7 days to see if the people that actually watched the movie went and died themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was a good pick.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the movie 100% sober, so I'm still not sure what happened. But my experience with this movie, the one that's most memorable, isn't very traditional. I remember in my old apartment where I roommated with DJ Zito, who you might know, John, and he was really drunk one night and I wasn't. And I got home late and I guess he fell asleep in his room with the DVD of The Ring on, and it got stuck in the menu screen. And I was trying to sleep in the next room. I'm like, what the fuck is like? I hear like this wind swooshing and like this ring on a table every once in a while. It was creeping me out. So I asked him the next day. I was like, what the hell was that? He's like, oh, I left my DVD on. I was like, you son of a bitch. It scared me.
So I didn't. I think I watched a. I actually think I don't ever know if I watched the whole movie. So I'm not going to comment much on it. Other than I really thought like some of the parodies that they did off it. Like I think the Wayans brothers did some parodies on that shit. That like just. And I didn't even watch the whole movie, but you just got like the sense of it, and it was the parodies were funny. But I'll move on since I actually didn't technically watch the whole movie. Ryan, what do you got for your number 4?
So for my number 4, some people might not even consider this a horror movie, but let me tell you why this is a horror movie. With my number 4 pick being Tremors.
Nice.
I mean, I think this movie plays with two of the most universal fears people have, being trapped somewhere in the unknown. I mean, in the movie, they're trapped in the middle of the desert, can't contact the outside world, and they have this giant monster raising from the ground and eating everybody. I mean, you can't walk outside. They destroy your vehicle so you can't drive away. And you don't know what this monster is, how many of them are there, or how to kill it. It's a horrifying situation. I mean, it's obvious with this movie poster what they're trying to play on. I mean, this shit is Jaws on land. I mean, except with Jaws, it's easy to say don't go in the water. It's not really easy to say don't walk on land. This shit stars Kevin Bacon, who's great in everything. I mean, they've had 6 movies of these and a TV show. They're making the 7th movie now. In Tremors 3, they have these flying tremors called ass blasters, which are actually based on Guy Fieri. I mean, these monsters were featured in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And if you made it into that game, you've earned your spot in horror movie icon.
Ronnie, Tremors thoughts.
Tremors. Listen, Tremors to me is not a horror movie, but actually I like the pick. I like the movie. I remember watching it with my brothers, and we were just like cracking up because it was hilarious. It's like one of the funnier horror movies, especially the whole series. It really sort of dug into the whole B movie idea, where like it didn't really care that it was ridiculous and all this weird stuff was happening, but it never really scared me. I remember watching when I was little, so I'm iffy on the pick. I like it though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie. Bacon grew on me as I got older. I really started to appreciate Bacon for being Bacon himself. And I don't know if it's like I said, more of like I don't know if it's a horror, but yeah, it was. I remember being freaked out, like watching it. You're like, yo, don't run on the ground. What are you doing, son? Don't touch the ground. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like there's parts of it that I do remember like reacting that way to. So I think it was a good movie, and I think a good number 4. John, what do you think?
I've never seen it. I'm passionate about it, so I'm buying it. I'm gonna go watch it. But I've never seen that thing.
It's different. I always thought it was a little bit different than anything really at the time for sure. So
yeah.
Ronnie, what do you got for your number 4?
All right, number 4. We're taking you guys out to space with the original space horror movie. I don't know. But one of them, I guess 2000: Space Odyssey is a horror movie kind of, but Alien, the original was intended to be a horror movie. I think now they're more considered action, but I remember watching this and the sequel Aliens when I was little and just getting creeped out at just how they blended into the walls of the spaceship. The thought of being alone in outer space where it's cold and you have no way of escaping a ship, and then this monster is on it, hunting people down, seemingly able to disguise itself and get to you. And Bill Paxton, I believe, was in it. Sigourney Weaver was in it. Not only was the actual alien iconic, but just the way it was formed, by the face hugger, impregnating essentially someone, and the original, the alien bursting out of someone's chest right away, and it was really creepy, and yeah, it was an original concept, and I really liked it.
Yeah, so James Dennison will be disappointed, from of me, because I'm just not like into the sci-fi anything stuff. Like I watch these movies, like I watched them, I'm like, I mean, like all right, like I guess it's all right. I don't know, like I never got into them. You know what I mean? I just never really, I don't know, never fell for it. So I'm not. I respect the genre, and I like of like the sci-fi thriller kind of, I guess, horror movie, and I think that they did it the best. So I respected being on the list. I just wasn't my thing. John, you got any thoughts on Alien?
So I think Alien's amazing, but I'm questioning whether Ronnie's talking about Aliens or Alien, because Bill Paxton is in Aliens and not Alien.
That's good.
Yeah.
But Alien is amazing and terrifying, and Aliens is maybe like even scarier. I think that's like an amazing pick. Both those movies are crazy, just the way they were shot. It was super dark. You couldn't see shit. The spaceship didn't seem like some like Fantasyland spaceship. That shit seemed like some like rundown tank that you were inside of, and it was a scary scene, a scary set, scary animal. I usually don't like that crazy like masks and shit, but that was good. Good pick.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, definitely good pick, Ronnie. I definitely like Aliens more than Alien, but this started it all. I mean, this had the scene where, the alien burst through the guy's chest, which was fucking amazing at the time. I mean, they had the face huggers, they have everything in here. I mean, you're stuck in a fucking spaceship, so you're stuck in, the small thing with an unknown creature trying to destroy you. Definitely terrifying concept.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to my number 4. And I don't think I'm going to get criticized for this one making it into a horror genre. This is a true classic. I actually thought about putting a movie like Zombieland in this spot, because I mean it is a comedy, but I did feel like adding the zombies part of it. But I decided to go a different route and go old school. Psycho was a great movie in general. I thought. I mean, like it was like a good movie, and then it was fucking creepy as shit. They have your like iconic scenes that they have, and there's been so many like people that have like redone it, and tried to kind of like base things off of it, and it was, for me, like when I had to if I like choosing one of the old school ones, I thought that this was the one for me. And yeah, like I thought like not only just like a good horror movie, but a really good movie in general. John, what do you think?
Yeah, man. Agreed, dude. Agreed. Great movie. I'm so glad you didn't pick Zombieland after Beetlejuice for horror movies, dude. 2 comedy films. Psycho is a classic. A lot of people like. There's even that whole story about her taking the money from her job in the beginning, then getting to the hotel. That's its own little like good film section there too. Great pick. I love it. That's in my list of maybe being in the top 5. So great pick.
I think it's like 60 years old now too.
Hitchcock, right? That's Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, man. I've never seen the shit, so I can't really comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I remember even going to Universal Studios when I was like 9 or something like that, and they had like the hotel up in the corner and stuff like that. And you're right, it is iconic and it's classic. And the thing that I always liked about it was the twist. Like the whole movie, they have you thinking one thing, and then there's that twist at the end with his mom not being there, his mom being dead, and he's actually playing his mom and him, and that's sort of like that psychological horror type thing where it's just like it just elevates your fear at the end of the movie, and then it's over, and yeah, it's a good pick. I like it.
Yeah, I think I had a art at the math. I think we might have taken like a film history class or something. I think I watched it there for the first time, and with One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and stuff like that. But definitely a classic.
Father Claude doing that.
No? Actually, I think it might have been Miss McGrath.
Oh, okay.
by that point. I don't think Father Claude was there at that point for me. He might have been gone. So, John, we're all the way up to number 3. What do you got for your number 3?
I'm going to try to share my screen one more time, but if I make a fool of myself, I'm not doing it anymore. All right, I'm going to try it. So people hated on this when it people loved it when it first came out and then hated on it for the rest of its life. This is a story that kind of changed the way that horror movies were made for a lot of different kind of movies. It took place in Maryland, which I always was drawn to. It's kind of one of those things where a lot of people believed it and freaked out and called the cops, and called all kinds of news outlets. And then once everybody started figuring out that it was actually just a movie, then
He clicks the X instead of the.
then when people started hating on it after it came out and people figured out it was just a movie, and then they're like, oh yeah, whatever, I couldn't see anything, whatever. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was a good movie, and it kind of changed the genre a little bit for the better.
Ryan, thoughts on the Blair Witch?
I think it's a terrible pick. I hated the movie. Stupid camera moving around the entire time. I remember fucking Sloppy Sherrod telling me this was the scariest movie he's ever seen. Loses a lot of points right there, right off the bat. I will go with the ending. I like the ending where they go downstairs and they see the kid in the corner, and then it goes over before they get smacked in the head or whatever. That's good, but the rest of the movie is just fucking wasting time.
Ronnie, do you remember the town that it was in?
Yeah, it was in Reisterstown. Now I'm kidding.
I think it was Birkenstock.
Listen, this is a great pick. I almost picked it myself. The only reason I didn't pick it is I knew it would be ridiculed by at least Ryan and probably Danny. I saw it in theaters the first day it came out. And yeah, it's based in Maryland. And you're talking to someone, I grew up on the border of Baltimore County and Carroll County, so we had woods around us. My next neighbor was at least 3 acres away. So being in the woods at night, having watched this, it creeps you the hell out. And I just love the way that it was filmed, but also past the artistic point, how it built up. Like it slowly built up, and it never really had a moment in the middle of the movie where you're like, oh, this is scary as crap. You have to take the whole movie as a whole, and then at the end, that's when the zinger comes, and it just takes you to another level, and then it's done. So I like the pick. Good movie.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on this one because I'm kind of like where John. I think I saw it kind of like when as John was talking about like the later part of it. So like I really wanted to like it because it was based in Maryland, and then like there were parts that I was like, this is like a pretty decent movie, but then there are parts that I'm like, I literally was laughing out loud, like, you know what I mean? I don't, you know what I mean? I'm like, what happened? Like the whole map thing, like I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. There was parts of it that I'm like laughing hysterically because I thought it was so bad, but then I do get like freaked out. I'm like, man, why isn't the whole movie this good? I don't know. It was a love-hate one for me, but I can like respect it being on the list, especially the Maryland connection. So, Ryan, what do you got for your number 3?
That's right. For my number 3, gobble gobble, motherfucker.
Oh, God,
my number 3 pick is Thanksgiving. I mean, the movie opens with a gross topless pilgrim running. I mean, right there, you got me hooked. She runs into and is murdered by a turkey with a tomahawk, who then utters the most classic movie line of all time, "Nice tits, bitch." I mean, I'm a huge fan of B-level horror movies, and this is way below that. I mean, the budget for this movie was $3,500. It was made in 11 days. It was one of the top 10 horror movies on Netflix. This movie was so badass, they actually skipped the second movie and went straight to the third. I mean, if any holiday is struggling for movies, it's definitely Thanksgiving. So this Thanksgiving, gather around with your family and loved one and popped in Thanksgiving.
Ronnie, do you have any thoughts at all on Thanksgiving?
And this is I knew this was gonna come up for some reason. This is an all-time worst pick.
What?
This is the worst thing in the world. I remember watching this with Ryan. He was loving it. I usually don't get headaches. I honestly couldn't watch the screen anymore. It was so horrific in the fact that it was a terrible movie.
No.
It was filmed horribly. Their budget must have been $150. The puppet that is the turkey is terrible. The whole concept of the movie, like some ancient Native American curse, which is, I mean, you can't get more stereotypical than that, is terrible. The actors are awful. I'm kind of glad that they died in the movie. Just a terrible pick. My head's hurting again. I can't talk about this anymore. It's terrible.
Yeah, how many turkeys were hurt in the filming of this movie? It bothers me to think that any of them were hurt, just because they could have been eaten on Thanksgiving. I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I really love this pick, and the reason for it is because my Beetlejuice pick will just get buried, because this is a terrible pick. Mailing it in. I hope the next two picks aren't as bad as this one.
Wait for my number one. It's worse.
No.
Geez. So I'm
not
looking forward
Not
to it.
only have I never seen this movie, I've never even heard this movie of this movie.
You don't want to watch it.
I thought you were a director, John.
Hey man, I've watched all kinds of. I've never I don't even share the. Can you share the photo poster again?
Oh, no problem.
I think that's just some clip art that Ryan just put together that I like by himself.
He would do that too, actually.
I mean, you don't need to bring it back up, but I don't know. I'll go check it out, maybe. I don't think so. I'll check out Tremors, but not that one.
I'll send you some pics. I'll send you some parts of the movie. We'll talk about it.
The highlights. I'll definitely watch the highlights of Hank's killing.
I mean, it's all highlights. The movie's that good.
It's only 30 minutes long. All right, Ronnie, what do you got for your number 3?
3, I'm sticking to space with a different movie here. The movie is Event Horizon. I remember when I watched this in the mid-90s. This is after Jurassic Park, so my only experience with Sam Neill was the lovable dinosaur paleontologist from Jurassic Park. This movie was such a crazy concept to me. Just space travel, you think of, only positive things, and a ship gets lost in space. It goes through sort of a wormhole. And it comes back inexplicably, and they send a crew out there to check on it, and it ends up being possessed by some sort of entity. And it really sort of, when you think about the movie, by the way, this movie is completely dated. If you watch it now, it's awful looking. The CGI is just terrible, but back then it was really scary. And if you think about the concept of sort of like, we really don't know what's out there in space and stuff like that, and all of a sudden something comes back, and you get on the ship, and this sort of evil's there. It's this sort of transient evil that takes over Sam Neill, as you can see, and Lawrence Fishburne wins, which is great, but it's a spooky movie.
Yeah, got me on this one. Missed it. That whole genre, like I said on the last round, I'm not a big fan of, so I'm not surprised I missed it. John, did you see this one?
Yeah, it was pretty whack. I think it's a bad pick. I think Sam Neill's kind of a pussy. I don't really like his movies that well. I mean, he's all right, but he was kind of an ass in Jurassic Park. He's kind of an ass in this one too. Makes bad decisions. It's kind of like some softy guy. I don't like that movie. It wasn't very scary. Not a big fan.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck this movie is. So let's go to number 3 for Danny.
All right, so my number 3 I feel is a solid number 3, but it is like very. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's gonna be hard to argue this one. So I'm gonna just throw it up there. The iconic image, Silence of the Lambs, is my number 3. I just could not put it on the list. It is such a good fucking movie. Once again, a couple of the movies that like made my list, obviously the last one, Psycho, and this one are just like great movies as well. But damn, that shit fucking freaky. And it's like kind of like John mentioned earlier, of like a thriller almost. But for me, that's a horror movie with and like motherfuckers cutting off people's faces and shit. Shit is wild as hell. But I had to put it. I had to put it in my list, and it's almost 30 years old. But man, I'll tell you, like I'd still go back and watch it, and it's still good. So, John, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's one of the best movies ever. So you got that going for you in the pick. I guess you could definitely argue that it's a horror film. I mean, obviously, it's amazing. Great pick. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely freaky like shit. I mean, the guy has a brace around his fucking mouth because he's eating people. You got the whole Buffalo Bill dancing scene, which was creepy as shit. I mean, Dan Johnson got beat up at a bachelor party for doing that. The whole thing where they're washing the doll or whatever like that is creepy as shit. So definitely a freaky fucking movie.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of tough because I don't necessarily consider this a horror movie as much as a psychological thriller. But like, those are very two close genres. I love the movie. I always have. I like the fact that, as was mentioned, like the real sort of villain is Buffalo Bill, and then you sort of have like this guy that you have to, the FBI agent Starling has to, rely on and sort of pick his brain apart. But he's obviously a psychotic monster himself, and that aspect of having to work with one to find one and try and stop all these murders of these women, and the hole in the lotion was kind of creepy too, and the fact that he would wear people's skin is kind of gross, but luckily that dog fell down the well, so good pick.
Yeah, I mean, I promise my last two are definitely horror movies, guys. John, what do you got for your number two?
Dude, let me see if I'm having a hard time here, but this one, it says hang up. I don't want to hang up. I'm not sharing. I'm just going to say it.
Right.
It's Exorcist. Saw that most of these movies I saw when I was pretty young. I think that when the age that you see, or like the mindset that you're in when you see a movie, impacts you. And when I was young, I saw a lot of these scary movies, and they just stuck with me. The Exorcist, because it happened in Georgetown, because it was a kid. Again, kids are terrifying in horror movies. It scared me. Went to Catholic school growing up, like all that Catholic school stuff with like God and the devil like taking over a kid's body. Like I was like, what is happening? And it was really kind of beautifully shot. That scene where he's in the street looking up at the house, and there's just a light coming from the house on him. Beautiful. I thought it was a great movie.
Ryan?
Yeah, good movie. Definitely another DC pick, which is cool. I mean, I remember going to DeMatha and there being rumors that one of the priests was, one of the guys in on The Exorcist like that. It was just like random rumors like that went around. I mean, definitely some of the creepiest scenes of all time. You got that barf scene. You got her walking backwards and shit like that. So it's a good pick.
Let me piggyback. There was an exorcism in Mount Rainier. So like that's like kind of what was like also terrifying, because Mount Rainier, y'all know from Berlin Heights, that's like you could like run there if you were getting really tired in like an hour.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, terrifying. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Ronnie. Go ahead.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I remember I didn't see The Exorcist until I was like in my 20s. It's definitely creepy. It's not like all the other horror movies I'd been used to growing up watching. Just sort of the concept of someone being possessed, and the sort of episodic, the days of exorcising the sort of demon out of this little girl, and her having to see all the doctors and all this creepy shit happening, and her crawling around and her head spinning around and crap like that. And it's kind of wild to think that there's actual like accounts of people being possessed, if it's true or not. Like, I think that's the sort of creepy thing, is like there's actual real accounts. This is based off a real story. So definitely creepy, definitely scary. Is a good pick.
Yeah, great pick. I think I'm going to play a little bit on the religious aspect because I think everyone agreed on it real quick. But being Catholic, I think, was a huge piece of it for me for sure. Like, even to the point where like when, me and my wife got married in the Catholic Church, like the the guy that was marrying us, we asked him questions about exorcisms. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, like, just because like you take it back to being like that's what they are is like what you saw in the movie, from that long ago. I mean, obviously that's not what it is and what it has become, but they still have people that perform exorcisms in like each archdiocese. It's an interesting thing. I'm telling you, it's a from my end, like I think that like John said, like with the religious aspect, great pick. So we're gonna move on to Ryan for number two, as we all agreed on that one.
So Danny actually kind of alluded to mine earlier, but for my number two, I'm going Two Girls, One Cup. Let me play your scene.
Oh no.
No, I'm fucking around. My number two is kind of a cult classic. It is Trick or Treat. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. I mean, the director of this movie was trying to create a mascot for Halloween. Every other holiday has their poster boy, but there's not always one identified with Halloween. So he created Sam, which is an awesome mascot. I mean, it's a collection of short stories that take place on Halloween in the same town, and they all kind of interlap over each other. I mean, I mentioned this with Thanksgiving, but I don't think there's a really good Halloween movie. I mean, there's good horror movies, but not one focused on Halloween. I mean, even the movie Halloween has nothing to do with Halloween other than it taking place on Halloween night. The film explores, the traditions of Halloween, and Sam punishes those who break the rules of Halloween. I mean, there's reasons that holidays and traditions exist. This movie plays into those old traditions and should become your go-to Halloween movie.
Ronnie, thoughts on Trick or Treat?
Yeah, I've never seen it. I guess it sounds like a decent concept. Maybe I gotta catch it, but is it a cartoon? I don't know. What is it?
It's not a cartoon, no.
Yeah, I've never caught this one either. Throwing away picks left and right in the top three. I just disrespecting the whole genre. I feel like so many good options you could be bringing up. Don't know anything about Sam, but I feel like anything that's smaller than me, it's like I almost feel like sometimes if anyone mentions Chucky, it's just kind of funny to me. Like, yo, just kick that motherfucker. Like, what's wrong with it? You know what I mean? You might get stabbed in the shoe, but I mean, shit. So, Johnny, have you ever seen this movie?
And that's a great point. Like, I just punt that little dude running around. And you speak so well about movies, and it's so great to hear. But again, you're wasted. Trick or Treat, number 3 best horror movie of all time.
Two.
I've never seen it. Oh, that's your number 2. Okay, all right. I've never seen it. I mean, it sounds amazing. The way that you speak about it, I'm going to watch some of it. Send me the highlights.
All right, send those as well.
You got to dress up as Sam for Halloween this year, Ryan. All right, Ronnie, we're up to you already on your number 2.
It's going by fast. So my number 2 is going to get hated on, but I'm ready for it. For me, this is one of the scariest movies when I was growing up. I remember it's obviously the original one. That's Tim Curry, also known as Dr. Homolka from Congo. But yeah, it was a really creepy movie. We rented it from the library. I don't know why the library would rent us a movie like this. I was like 9 years old, but just the concept of it was sort of scary. Kids being the only ones able to see it, it specifically attacking kids, parents deciding to ignore it. There's sort of like a social type of, social type of commentary in that. And, he would follow them around. He would try to single them out when they're alone. And I remember there's one scene in particular that still bugs me is Eddie Spaghetti's forced to take a shower in the school gym, and he comes up through the drain and sort of taunts him. And for about 10 years after I saw that, I couldn't shampoo with my eyes closed. It was terrible. Really creepy movie, really scary. I only saw the first part at first, and then it took me a little while to watch the second part. I was so creeped out. But I love this movie. It's always up there. It's better than the remake, I think. It's a scary movie.
Yeah, clowns freak me out. I think for multiple reasons. One was for some reason I think I was a clown a couple times as a kid for Halloween for some stupid reason, and not like a scary clown, just like a bullshit clown. And then also I think that it also came from this movie or like seeing it like when I was young, because I definitely didn't make it through the whole movie, and you know what I mean. I never went back and watched the whole thing, man. That shit freaked me out, bro. Like clowns are fuck me up, bro, and it reflects in my number two actually, which I'll get to in a second. But man, yeah, clowns fuck me up. John, any thoughts on it, the original?
Can't argue. I mean, that's one of those ones. It's like a very safe pick. It's like it's good. Clowns with sharp teeth. It's the teeth with the clown too. Just chills the bones. I mean, solid pick.
Ryan.
I mean, the only thing scary about this movie is how fucking long it is. I mean, that's why you guys didn't make it through this movie, is because this shit was 3.5 hours long. You had to rent 2 VHS at Blockbuster to see the entire thing. It came in a fucking 2-pack at Blockbuster. Fucking nothing that long can be that scary because it lost my attention on the second hour. Terrible pick.
There it is. Ryan hit that on them clowns, baby. All right, well, I'm up to my number two. So my number two is, so I picked actually one of a trilogy. I really think like for me, this is a real horror movie. Shit, this whole trilogy really freaks me out. But I picked the first one of the trilogy. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but it's A House of Thousand Corpses.
Oh yeah.
Devil's Rejects is the second one, and then there's Three from Hell is the third one in the series. It's actually Rob Zombie's movies. Yo, the fucking clown dude freaks me out again. He's fucking crazy. He freaks me out. But it's a really like, I don't know. I think it's a really good, like, well done, like, horror movie that doesn't get like talked about a lot. And like I said, it's part of like a trilogy. And for some reason, just like had that draw to me, even though it was all fucked up. You know what I mean? And I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but it was good. And I think that like all three of them were really good. They're definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen them. John, ever seen any of those?
I did. I saw the first two. I didn't see the Three from Hell. House of a Thousand Corpses is good, man. It's so good. It reminds me of the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre a little bit, the way that it was shot. Super realistic kind of like feel. It feels like they were just like one cameraman shooting twisted crew casts. Like just it was good. It was great horror film. Good pick.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I like the films as well. I like Rob Zombie. Like the fucking music throughout the entire thing was badass.
Yeah.
I mean, just because there wasn't like this main bad guy. It was just kind of these twisted people that it focused on. And it like kind of humanized them. It showed them doing everyday stuff and then just going doing terrible stuff. So like, you know, that could be your neighbor, just being a regular person and then just doing this terrible shit on the sidelines. So it's a good pick.
Ronnie?
Yeah, it's a good pick. I remember seeing it, and like Ryan said, it sort of adds a layer of like sort of realism. You never really know what people are like if you just see them out and about. And a side note is I read this recently. Rob Zombie actually filmed a different ending on purpose, and it was terrible. And the reason he did it is because he knew the whole movie was great, but he needed more money to give it the ending it deserved. So he showed it to the executives, and they're like, "Wow, this movie's great except for the ending." He's like, "Yeah, I need more money to fix it." And they're like, "Okay," and they give him more money. He made the ending better, and so it really launched his career too. I know he took over the reins for the Halloween remake, and that movie was I think pretty good. And yeah, good pick.
I think he did himself like justice and and bringing like kind of like horror movies, like kind of, I don't know. I thought that he did a good job with like in general bringing it back. So, John, we're all the way up to number one, sir.
My number one. I'm realizing that the younger I was when I saw a movie, and if there's a kid in it, if there's a scary kid, kids scare me, and I guess I don't know. The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah.
He's like one of my favorite directors because he's super talented, super weird, and it was super scary. Like I know for a fact, like I had problems when going to sleep a couple of those nights.
Shining, Ryan.
I mean, that's your number one, John. I mean, that's like Nelly saying he's number one. How you number one when your dumbass ain't in the top 20? I mean, come on, John.
Have
I
you
mean,
seen it?
I've seen it. They're ghosts the whole time. I get it, man. Like, no, it's a good pick. I'm just fucking around. I just wanted to quote some old PG County hip hop for you. But no, definitely freaky scenes. The old fuck when he goes in and starts kissing that woman, and then she turns into a fucking grandma was fucking disgusting scene. You know, the little twin girls riding down on their bikes is freaky as shit.
Oh.
The blood on the elevator, just so many classic scenes. Yeah, it's a great pick.
Yeah, I used Google as a reference to find to refresh me on which movies I would consider the best, and every top whatever list I find, this is always number one. It's a great pick. It's sort of like the barometer that people hold horror movies to in general, at least the older crew, and it has iconic lines. Everyone knows the "Here's Johnny" line and Red Rum and what that means, and it's sort of like one of those movies where it has that isolation feeling. They're at a hotel during the winter and off season trying to curate it, and all this wacky stuff starts happening. And I think there was a Simpsons parody of it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember no TV, no beer, make Homer something something, which was really funny. And groundskeeper Willie kept dying just like the groundskeeper in The Shining, so it was great.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad that it made someone's list. Yeah, the kids freak me out. I mean, no lie on that, and I think I'm going to echo a lot of what you guys said. I mean, I think it was well done. I think it was different. You know what I mean? But I thought, yeah, it was. I'm glad that it made some. It didn't make my list, but I'm glad it ended up on somebody's. So, Ryan, up to number one for you, sir.
So I'm going with the only film ever to be terrifyingly hilarious, which is, of course, Ernest Scared Stupid.
Oh my god!
I mean, no movie in history caused the sensation this movie did upon release. 14 states banned this movie because it was too terrifying. 3 states banned it because it was too hilarious. People were having fits and seizures in the theater because it was like nothing they've ever seen before. I mean, it's no surprise this was the last Ernest movie allowed to be shown in theaters. I mean, let's just look at the impact this movie had on the world. In Time magazine's feature of what humans are most afraid of, Trolls moved up from 346,902 in 1990 to first place in 1991. I mean, this movie features the sexy Eartha Kitt, still looking fine. And I mean, let's talk about how deep this movie is for a second. I mean, this movie is just a giant metaphor for puberty. I mean, what happens when the trolls touch the teenage boys? They sport wood. And the only thing that defeats the trolls at the end, that's right, it's love. So to all the kids watching, make sure you save your wood for the ones you love. Fantastic message, even better movie.
Ronnie, thoughts on the
Ernest? Ryan, early mail this weekend. Ernest,
isn't it his week? What's going on?
Or like it should be Ernest is stupid. All the Ernest movies stink, except Ernest Goes to Camp, which is kind of cool. But the rest of them all stink. I mean, these trolls were just like, they're practically Muppets, like from Sesame Street or something like that. They weren't scary looking at all, if I remember. They were just like these grimace looking motherfuckers that came out of a tree and waddled around, and they weren't scary. And this is a terrible pick. This is as bad of a pick as you can make. I'm sorry I'm talking about this right now.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to give it any more time, to be honest with you. I mean, this guy mailed in his last three. Did you not have enough time because it was on a Thursday? What happened? I don't understand. This is terrible. I mean, you might as well put Pee Wee Herman on the list too, baby. I don't get it.
That's
John,
kind
what do you think of Ernest?
The movie poster had Ernest Scared Straight on it, and then a name Jim Varney. So apparently that's Ernest. I thought Ernest's name was always just like Ernest for real, but I guess that's Jim Varney. I don't know. I mean, it's a horrible pick again, Ryan. I get what you're doing. It's really fun, and you're great at it. It's a horrible pick.
You're great at picking terrible picks. So love it.
Yeah.
Let's move on quickly to Ronnie's number one. Hopefully, this one's better.
All right. I went pretty generic on this one. I'm surprised no one said it yet. But there he is. There's the shape. Halloween, the original. When I thought about making this list, it's the only movie I watch every year that's scary. I have to watch it. My wife hates scary movies, so she's not in the room with me. But I love it. It still makes me think it had the total package of a slasher film. It was the original one, if I recall correctly, and the music in and of itself, just ominous, and it always picked up. And at the end, when there's the main scene, it just the music went to another level, and you knew stuff was serious. And I love it. Just the idea of a guy going around and taking people out, and the cops not taking it seriously, and this psychiatrist is just sort of trying to warn everyone what's about to happen, and it happens. And even the ending was great because it was ambiguous. Unfortunately, they made other movies, but I thought the Rob Zombie remake was good too. But nothing beats the original. I love Halloween.
Yeah, this is a horror character that I can be scared of. You know what I mean? As a big man, he was a big guy, imposing figure. You know what I mean? And it was always like fucked me up. Was like, yo, this dude's just walking around and he just gets like, yo, it doesn't matter how fast he moves. Like the man was gonna get you, he was gonna get you. I felt like, no, I think this is a great pick. I mean, I think that it definitely deserves to be on someone's top five. I mean, if someone else would have taken this seriously, we would have had a couple other good movies to talk about. But no, great movie. And like I said, I think you're right on, except for H2O, man. LL Cool J was in that, baby, representing.
Resurrection had Exhibit. No. Was it Exhibit? Busta Rhymes.
But no, I mean, like, I think that they made that whole series. I mean, obviously the first one was the best. And yeah, good pick. John?
The Mask is so scary. I don't even know how you would describe the Mask. And that's a great pick. And it made me realize that any other budget doesn't determine how good a horror film is.
Right.
Like any other genre we would have been talking about tonight, all of our top five would have been like multiple $1 million movies. But a lot of the ones that I said, that you guys said, are shot for nothing. Just very interesting. Great pick. But Halloween wasn't like a big budget thing. It looked like it was made by a couple of people, and it was terrifying. Great pick.
Yeah, that mask is actually just a William Shatner mask that they spray painted white. I mean, that's the kind of budget that they're on.
Yeah.
You talked about how iconic the music is. I mean, they originally played this movie without the music and didn't get like a reaction from people at all. And then they added the music in, and just it terrified everybody. I love all the Halloweens except number 3, Season of the Witch, which was terrible. Michael Myers is definitely my favorite movie icon. I mean, I remember being 12 years old and trying to go see Halloween H2O, and they had people like carding us at the door, so they didn't let us in. So Chip Beamer called the guy a douchebag, and then randomly Jeremy Brown showed up behind us and let us walk in with him. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this was my first exposure to a pair of boobs when I was younger. So it was definitely a big moment for me watching this movie. Definitely exposure to one of my all-time favorite things. So great pick.
There you go. Some actual fine thoughts from Mr. Ryan John there. So we all the way up to my number one. My number one, I'll bring you to the year, is 1996. It's going to be, I'm surprised it didn't make anyone else's list, but it is kind of stereotypical. But man, I'll tell you, like I was 14. I was like a freshman in high school when this movie came out, and in theaters, man, I just remember this thing just like, I don't know, just disrupting me, man. You know what I mean? Scream was a great. I once again, I feel like this is another movie that if I had to like make a top 20 or 25 list of all time of my favorite movies, like a couple of these movies on my horror, they're great movies. I feel like, in my opinion, they obviously wanted to make numerous of these, but the first one, The Mask. The shit was freaky. I remember like watching that shit. Like I remember watching it in theaters. I remember being like, it was crazy that they like Drew Barrymore got killed off the bat. Like she was like the on the box of like on the movie poster, and she was done like right away. And how they started it was just like I was just like, oh shit, that shit got real off the quickness. And it just kind of like continued on from there. I really thought that like they did a good job. Even like I remember being like thinking I was like, man, thank God I'm a big man. I guess in some of those situations, people getting stuck in, when they were getting stuck in the door, like the garage door and shit. Like it was just an interesting movie, and I think that for me, I think that like John said, the age that I was very like it affected it, and I also still remember I'm like sitting in that movie theater and like the screen goes to black at the end. And then like a couple seconds later, whatever, they just pop that mask back up, and like everyone in the theater's like, whoa, like you know what I mean? It was just like one of those instinctual things that they kind of got you with, but it was a little corny, but dude, it got me. So, John, any thoughts on Scream?
Oh, great pick. Great pick. Wes Craven is the guy that did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
And he had like a 10-year streak of like kind of duds. And then Scream kind of just exploded when it came out. Great pick. I loved it. I loved how it started fast. Like
Yep.
like just boom. And then you were just in for the whole theater. Great pick.
Started off that genre of like teen kind of, like was it, I Know What You Did Last Summer and all those movies as well. So, Ryan, thoughts on Scream?
Uh, Great pick. I mean, probably best opening 5-10 minutes of any
Yeah.
movie ever. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
once they kill off Drew Barrymore, you're like, anybody's fair game now. You thought she was going to be the star of the movie. At that point, you knew that anyone could go at any time. It has that great like mystery of who is it you're trying to figure out the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
Which has you guessing to the end. So great pick.
Ronnie?
Yeah, it's a really good pick. I remember seeing it in the theaters too, having to sneak in, and just I liked how, I guess up until that point, for horror films, a lot of them had just been sort of slasher monster films, and this just sort of, like you guys are alluding to, took the whole formula and flipped it upside down, because you're expecting one thing, like you guys are saying, like, oh, Drew Barrymore is going to be the protagonist, all of a sudden she's dead, and you're like, wait, what the hell's going on? And a lot of the movie is that. It's like, yeah, what's going on? Like, why are these people dying? Like, who's doing this? It mixes a lot of good tropes together, but it sort of does it in a different way for horror movies. And even the ending, the twist at the end where, it was two of them, and they were going to make it look like, it was someone else, and it backfired on them. But it's an iconic movie. They still make Scream movies. I think they're going to make another one, and good pick.
Yeah, actually, the last one wasn't that bad. I didn't think there was a couple that weren't great, but yeah, I mean, I really got a kick out. I still get it, still like watching it. So,
Yeah.
So we're all the way down. We finished up. Ronnie, do you have an ethical question of the week? John, we usually do let Ronnie ask us, and he tells us yes or no if we're right or wrong on an ethical question of the week. So
I do have an ethical question this time. Ethical question comes from, I've never actually been in one of these. I fantasize about being one of these because I really want to do what, the proper thing. But say you're in like a drive-through, like a Starbucks or a McDonald's, and they do this, pay it forward thing where you pay for the person behind you, and the person behind you rolls up, gets their food, they tell you, oh, that person paid for you, and then that person pays for behind you. So what if, you're going to McDonald's and, you get like a coffee for like $2, and someone behind you's got like 4 kids and they bought them all Happy Meals? Do you continue paying it forward? Ryan, go ahead.
Absolutely not. I would actually pay it backwards. I would say, hey, the car behind me is sporting my meal. I mean, they're buying for Happy Meals as is. They can buy a fit Happy Meal for me. So I'll put it back on that single mom trying to raise those 4 kids and let her pay for me too.
So the part of me does want to say that, like what Ryan just did, but I feel like the Catholic side of me just would make me feel so guilty for the rest of my life that it wouldn't be worth the 30 or 40 bucks that I'd be thinking about for the weeks and months following of bad juju that would come my way for not paying it forward. John, what do you think?
Like, does this happen?
Yeah. People do this at Starbucks and McDonald's. They'll buy the food of the person behind them, and then that person is supposed to do the same thing.
Gotcha. I don't drink coffee. I don't eat fast food, so I'm never in that. I guess I'd just take it, man. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I would just be like, all right, cool. They paid for me. Thanks. And I'd drive off. I wouldn't know that I had to pay for the people behind me, honestly. But if you told me that was a thing, and now I know, now that I do it, if I do it, I'd probably have to pay for them behind me. And I'd just be pissed off. I'd be pissed off about stuff.
Yeah, Ryan, you're absolutely correct. There's absolutely no way. Like, if I roll up, and I order like Taco Bell, or if Monica rolls up with my drunken ass in the passenger seat and we order Taco Bell and they tell me, hey, the people in front of you paid for you, I'd be like, awesome. Not only do I get Taco Bell, but I get free Taco Bell, and I just drive off. I would totally be the end of the line. Don't pay for the people's food. They're already in line expecting to pay food. If the cashier tells the person behind you that you stopped it, screw the cashier. That's their own fault. They don't got to do that. They don't got to rat you out. But I would absolutely not pay it forward. Screw that.
Well, especially if you got DJ Zito in the car behind you. Definitely don't want to pay for that one. Well, John, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it. This was really good. It was good to have like some actual insight from somebody that's like, knows what they're talking about. I think
hey, Danny,
we're
real quick.
please.
I called Sam Neill a pussy. I just didn't like his character in Jurassic Park or Event Horizon. Loved him in The Piano. Loved him in Hunt for Red October. I just thought those characters were pussies. He's not. Would love to work with him if possible.
It's fine.
Love to work with him, and we got a lot of people. Drew Brees used to watch the show a lot. He got off. He got off the bandwagon early on, but we're adding people weekly. So, but no, really, I really do appreciate you coming on. And like, I'd like to, if you want to throw anything out there or anything going on that we should check out that you got going on coming up. Obviously, you got the documentary, but please let us know and say a couple words. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm working on a couple of things that we probably won't be able to watch. The thing with movies is that even when you finish them, it's still like a year before anybody gets able to see them. So,
right.
I finished a short film about pizza, which is good, and people like that have seen it. And then I'm working on a full-length documentary right now about diabetes, which is pretty impactful. So we'll see. Once that's done, I'll holler.
Good, man. That's awesome. Keep it up, bro. Love to check out, keep up with what you got going on. Gentlemen, Ryan, Ronnie, any thoughts on the episode?
Thanks for coming on, John. We appreciate you taking the time. I had fun fucking around, so.
Yeah, no, thanks, John. I really appreciate it. It's nice meeting you. You're a good dude. You had really good picks. Usually I'm the one that's fucking around and saying stupid crap. I'm glad this week I took it serious because we got Ryan saying stupid shit. So
right on the important one. All right, everybody. Hopefully we'll catch you on the next one. John, thanks a lot, man. Talk to you next time.
Later, guys.
Take care.